thank you, everybody. And good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this first of a series of town halls. The reason I've asked our international team to do these town halls is reasonably simple. As Gabi said, it is in response to what the Trump administration is doing. And our goals are mainly to give you a chance to tell us what your concerns are, and for us to give you a chance to tell you how we can be helping you in addressing some of these concerns. Now, there are things that we can do, which I can guarantee you we will do. And then there are things that we are not able to do because they might be illegal. And that's where we would be limited in what we can do. But I can tell you that this whole conversation is very personal to me. About 40 years ago, I was in your shoes, 1982, when I got to this country. So I came as an immigrant student on a visa. I know exactly how you feel about the uncertainty of, will I get a visa, will I not get a visa? Will I get an OPT or will I not? Will I have to leave the country or would I not? And I can go on and on. So I've lived through each and every one of those anxieties. So I'm here to tell you that we are here to support you. So I'm not going to take any more of your time and hand this back to Gabi. Thank you, Gabi.
Thank you so much, Chancellor Khosla, for joining us this afternoon. With that, I just want to let folks know who is here in the room, so to speak, to support you in our Q&A and just in community with all of you today. We are joined by our Assistant Vice Chancellor for Global Initiatives, Tamara Cunningham. I am also joined by my wonderful leadership team here at ISEO, and I will let them each introduce themselves, our leadership team, quickly here on camera. Grace, let's start with you, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Grace Fuller. I use she, her pronouns. I serve as the Interim Assistant Director of International Experience and Engagement, and I'll hand it over to my colleague, Pauline.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Pauline de Guzman, pronouns she, her. I serve as the Assistant Director for International Student Services. Thank you all for being here. I'll pass it over to Peter.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Peter Jomick. I'm the Assistant Director for Compliance and Systems here at ISEO.
Nayeli.
Hi, I'm Nayeli Garcia. I'm the Senior International Scholar Advisor here to help you.
Sandra.
Sandra Vargas Tinoco, Assistant Director for International Faculty and Scholar Office, here to support you in any way that we can.
Thank you.
Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine Sampan-Campanich, Senior International Scholar Advisor.
And Lisa.
Hi, everyone. Lisa Swig, currently serving as Manager of Student Services.
Thank you, everyone. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. As I shared earlier, this portion will be recorded, and we will stop recording when we get to our Q&A section. We ask that you try to reserve questions to the end of the presentation. We have collected questions ahead of time with the intention of crafting our information today around those questions. So hopefully they are addressed, but we do welcome your questions, and we have our team helping answer those at the end of this presentation. So a little bit about the agenda today, just briefly, so everyone understands what we will be going over. I'm going to be providing some updates on the F and J visa interview pause. This affects our students in J or F status, as well as our J1 scholars. And I will also be going over the visa revocation concerns for our students from China, as well as increased vetting for our students from China and Hong Kong. I'll be going over how ISEO and the campus is supporting our community. I'll also be talking through a little bit of what you can do, how you can be empowered to work through these challenging times. And then we will end with resources for all of you. Again, this webinar is intended for our students, scholars, and our staff and community campus partners who support our students and scholars. So there will be information for all of those populations. So to begin with a bit of an overview of where we are currently. On May 27th, the U.S. Department of State ordered that U.S. embassies and consular sections pause the scheduling of any new F1, M, and J1 visa appointments. And for clarity, F and J are the visa types that our students primarily come on, as well as our J1 scholars here at UC San Diego. This pause is reportedly intended to allow for the implementation of expanded social media screening and vetting procedures for visa applicants. While the duration of the pause remains unclear, it is reported to be temporary. Before I go into depth about what this means, I wanted to take a step back and provide a brief overview of the terms visa and status, as this can be a big point of confusion, understandably, for our students and those supporting our students as well. And the difference here is important to understand as it can affect decision-making when making future plans. So an F1 or a J1 visa stamp. This is a stamp that is issued by a US consulate in an individual's passport once they have gone for their visa interview. It is used as a ticket. You can think of it as a ticket for entry into the United States. It can expire in the US without affecting your status in the United States. You can only obtain your visa stamp from outside the United States. It is not something that you can apply for within the US. The visa stamp is a really important piece to understand, as this is a stamp, a document, a stamp that allows an individual to apply for entry into the US versus an individual's F1 or J1 status, which is your permission to stay in the United States. Your F1 or J1 status, or an individual's F1 and J1 status, is the legal classification while you are here inside the US. This is determined by the US entry record, or I-94, when you're entering, alongside your valid Form I-20 for F1 students or DS 2019 for J1 students and scholars. It also means that you are adhering to rules and regulations. So all of these combined is your status in the US and your maintenance of that status. You can change status while you are here in the United States, for clarity. So again, the biggest difference here is your visa stamp allows you to apply for entry to the US. Once you are here, it doesn't hold a whole lot of meaning in terms of maintaining your actual status, which is your permission to stay here. And again, this is important because we know that visas can expire while a student is still here and has valid documentation and status to continue in their program. So we want to make sure that distinction is clear. And I'll pick up on this point in a few moments as we go over more details. So going back to the impacted individuals of the visa interview pause, who does this impact the most? So first, this does impact our current students. Those are new students here that are, sorry, these are mixed up a little bit here, but I'll kind of clarify. This impacts our new F1 and J1 students, those who are currently abroad. They were newly admitted to the university to start programs either in the summer or the fall. And J1 scholars who do not hold a visa stamp that I just described and do not already have a visa appointment booked as of the 27th of May, when this announcement was made by the State Department. This impacts current F1 and J1 students and J1 scholars who plan to travel internationally and require a visa if your visa is expired, for example, to get back to the US, and do not already have a visa interview booked as of May 27th. This can affect our alumni and postdocs as well. So our F1 and J1 alumni employed at UC San Diego or with a US company, so those on optional practical training or academic training, who plan to travel internationally and require a visa renewal to get back to the US and don't already have a visa interview booked. It can impact that community as well. So for those, I want to make clear here, for those F1 and J1 students and J1 scholars outside the US who already have a visa appointment booked or have an approved visa waiver in place, this newest news does not impact you. We are encouraging students and scholars who are already able to book an appointment prior to this announcement to keep that appointment and move forward. And if you have an approved visa waiver, to move forward with that as well. This does not impact those individuals in those situations. So to provide some greater context, again, into who this impacts, it's important to understand who needs to apply for a visa to study or conduct research in the US. And so I'll highlight this a little bit more here. These individuals include future or continued status in the United States, those scholars or students who are planning to come to UC San Diego for the first time, or are continuing students and scholars. those who also are seeking entry to the US, and they either do not have a US visa yet because they're new, or because their existing US visa stamp has expired. So to clarify, if an individual is here already in F1 and J1 status, but your visa has expired and you have no plans to travel internationally or staying in the US, you don't have to renew that US visa. It is only if you are planning to travel outside the US and seek re-entry later this summer into the fall, and if you have that visa and it is expired, then you would have to apply for a new visa. And so here's some examples to sort of illustrate this a little bit further. Example 1 shows someone that will need to apply for a visa stamp and would be impacted by this current pause, right? This is a new F1 or J1 student or scholar who's located currently outside the US. They have future enrollment, they have an appointment here, an employment appointment, and intend to maintain F1 or J1 status in the US. That student scholar, again, is outside the US and will seek entry to the US, and they do not have a valid F1 or J1 visa currently. They need to apply for that visa, and if they have not applied by the 27th of May, then this current pause does impact them. Looking at a new F1 or J1 student or scholar located inside the US currently. So let's say that's a student or scholar, they have future enrollment or an appointment set in the next few weeks or months, and they intend to maintain their F1 or J1 status in the US. Say, for example, they're at another institution and they're transferring here in the US and they're transferring here. They've transferred their CVIS record and will remain active in the US. The student does not have a valid F1 or J1 visa, that's okay. As long as that individual remains in the US, they follow transfer protocols appropriately, they do not need to apply for a new visa stamp, and this doesn't apply. Looking at continuing F1 or J1 students or scholars located outside the US, again, they have future enrollment or future employment, and they, let's say, want to go home over the summer, or they want to conduct research over the summer. And they are planning to come back to UC San Diego rather at the end of that research or the end of that visit, and they do have an unexpired visa into the future. This pause does not apply because they have that valid ticket to get back into the United States. And finally, our last sort of scenario here where this would not apply or impact our students or scholars is an individual already located in the United States. Let's say they're ending their program or appointment in the next couple of weeks. They're staying inside the US for their grace period. They don't have a valid, let's say, visa stamp in their passport. It is fine for that individual to stay here, see through their grace period if they're not staying or applying for work authorization, and return home. They don't need to renew that visa. So hopefully this helps illustrate sort of the do's and don'ts, but also the impacts or lack of impact that this has depending on what your current situation is. Going into visa revocations, this was another announcement made the day after the pause on visa interviews on May 28th. The U.S. Department of State announced plans to collaborate with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to begin revoking visas for students from the People's Republic of China. This includes individuals with alleged ties to the Chinese Communist Party and those studying in fields deemed critical. This is very brief information that the community received. The announcement also notes that the government will revise its criteria to increase scrutiny of future visa applicants for students from China as well as those from Hong Kong. At this time, again, the announcement was very, very brief. We haven't received any additional guidance. The specific criteria for visa revocations and the list of critical fields has not been disclosed or further discussed. No further details or formal policy guidance has been released by the US government. So currently the university and ISEO, we are actively monitoring the situation. We're working to obtain more information through our professional organization channels and through advocacy. We will continue to reach out directly to any students who may be impacted. Which brings me back to the point I made earlier about visas. You'll recall that a visa stamp does not determine legal status in the United States. So when a visa is revoked, and under this particular type of threat, it is not removing or terminating a person's legal status in the US. So while a visa revocation doesn't automatically terminate a holder's immigration status, however, it might prompt Department of Homeland Security to review the individual's case, potentially determine whether they are out of status. So we are asking our community, those who might be impacted, to please reach out to ISEO if you are contacted at all about a potential visa revocation or any updates regarding your visa status. ISEO ourselves, we will not be notified directly by any department agencies if this happens. The Department of Homeland Security will reach out to the student or the scholar directly if there are any impacts to their visa. So please reach out to ISEO if this happens so we can set an appointment and discuss options. So again, who might the revocation plan impact? These are our current visa holders from China that this would impact. Those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields is what was detailed in the announcement. And again, the term critical fields is not defined by the press statement that we were given. This impacts new and current students from China or Hong Kong applying for future student visas. So those who will require a visa stamp to enter into the US this summer or fall. The information released to us in this short statement says it plans to revise criteria to enhance security or scrutiny, of all future visa applications from the People's Republic of China and Hong Kong. But this was the most information that we received. So as I've noted, again, and you can see here, we have very little information. However, we are working closely with colleagues across campus to better understand its implications. And in fact, our good partners at UC San Diego's 21st Century China Center within the School of Global Policy and Strategy informed us of an event that their colleagues at UCLA are hosting that has more information on this. So I will be posting information about that information session that is being held tomorrow. From the UCLA Chinese Studies colleagues who are hosting a teach-in tomorrow on visa revocations and what it means for Chinese students in the US. This is a webinar that brings together Chinese scholars, journalists, and legal professionals. And I will provide that link and put that in the chat later for folks who are interested in learning more at this time. In terms of campus and ISEO support, we understand deeply how much these actions, in addition to the others taken earlier this year with the status terminations of our student records earlier in April, can take its toll on our students and our scholars. We understand how much anxiety and confusion this may cause as we try to focus on your academics and your professional pathways here in the United States. I can't stress enough how important each and every one of you, each and every one of our international students and scholars are to our campus. Research and learning is bettered immeasurably through your perspectives and diverse perspectives and talent. And our community is made richer and more vibrant in our friendships and our collaborations and our connections with all of you. So I just want to stress and reiterate that you are all welcome here, and this will never change here at UC San Diego. With that, I do want to touch upon the ways that we can support you and the ways the campus is working to support all of our international students and scholars. As you can see here, and being part of this town hall today, we will continue to host regular town halls and listening sessions for our international community. We will continue our operations in issuing visa documents for students and scholars. That will not change. These are going to be issued to our students and scholars so that you are ready when visa appointment availability opens up again, that you have those documents and are ready to book your appointment. We will continue to post timely updates and FAQs on our iupdates.ucsd.edu page and provide individual advising and referrals as needed for more complex cases through ISEO and our advising team. In terms of advocacy, we have strong partnerships with GEPA, the colleges, the Office of Postdoctoral and Scholar Affairs, Student Affairs Case Management, the departments, and other student scholar support units across campus and beyond. We work very closely with all of them so that everyone is aware of the implications, the impacts, and how this is impacting our community. And we are consistently working through ways and strategies to help support all of you in these different ways. We are in regular communication as well with UCOP, the university's Office of the President, as well as with UC Federal Government Relations. And we are in regular communication with campus leadership on issues impacting our community. In terms of wellness, the most important thing is that our students and our scholars feel supported and feel that they have the resources to move forward with your daily lives here under so much pressure and anxiety. We encourage our students and our scholars to utilize CAPS and FSAP. We encourage our students and scholars to come be a part of community programs that we host and that our different departments and student support and scholar support units host, be in community with one another. We host the Art of Belonging here at ISEO as part of our Global Coffee Hour, where students can work directly with a CAPS counselor to talk through various different elements that are impacting their well-being. And that's in a community environment, a low-stakes community environment, to be able to just be in community with one another and speak with a professional as well. We have our basic needs here on campus, our office that is supporting our international students through iTable program and various other support programs that have not stopped since these federal actions came into place earlier this year. All of those are at iprograms.ucsd.edu. So moving into what can I do, right? Having some form of control or agency in a situation where everything feels out of control is really, really important. And we want to make sure that you are best prepared for any policy shifts that are to come. The biggest piece of advice that we can give our students and scholars and our partners is staying informed with regular updates. All of our updates are posted on our iUpdates page. We always have adjoining FAQs that are coupled with new updates so that students and scholars and departments can see how certain updates in federal policy directly impact our students and scholars and what helpful pieces they need to be thinking through in relation to that update. The University of California Federal Updates page contains up-to-date information as well on federal policy shifts that are happening and advocacy that is happening. We encourage everyone to read our weekly ISEO and other campus newsletters for relevant updates as well. And I'll share links on how to access these at the end of the presentation. For our students and scholars, it's so important at this time, more than ever. We always go over this in orientation, but now more than ever, it's the most important to pay attention to these pieces. Make sure that you are following all rules to maintain legal status. Our ISEO website is full of information on how to do so, but a really great and succinct page that I will link to later also goes over how to maintain visa status with our visa status checklist. It's a nice clean list that you can go through and make sure that you're updating information correctly, staying current with your status, extending documents when you need to, for example. That is all there on this page. Attend our iWorkshop series that we have regularly on various different topics to make sure that you are keeping up to speed on regulations and what you need to do to maintain status. Of course, please come and speak to an ISEO advisor when needed. We will work with you, and if there is a case question or if there are pieces that are beyond our scope of expertise, we will be able to connect you to different resources and finding legal counsel to help through situations as well. We also want to make sure that our students and our scholars are aware of the different risks of things that are happening. We know that it can be very, very challenging in times like this to make plans, future plans at all. And so we want to just make sure that you are weighing potential travel risks, for example, against personal, academic, or professional factors and goals. Develop contingency plans, right? If, for example, you're traveling and you're unable to get back to the US, what is your contingency plan? Can you continue your research elsewhere? Can you put a pause on your studies? How are you able to get your belongings if they're here in the US? How can you connect with someone here to help get belongings back to you, for example? All of these questions to think through. It's really important to develop a contingency plan. Stay in touch with your department, your college, ISEO advisor, or your supervisor, so they are aware of your plans and what you're thinking, so you can help inform that contingency plan. ISEO in general, we strongly urge our students and our scholars and families to carefully evaluate, again, this risk, particularly with travel. This is, of course, a huge question for the summer. As you can see here, US immigration policy remains unpredictable and subject to rapid changes. So re-entry to the US, as a reminder, is at the sole discretion of Customs and Border Protection. A valid visa, even though we talked about these pieces, it's not necessarily a guarantee for entry into the US. Therefore, every individual really needs to be prepared for any risks, the possibility of not being able to return. Make sure that you're visiting our iUpdates page and thoroughly review our FAQs in assessing that risk and making a decision that works best for you personally in furtherance of your professional and personal goals. I want to end here with a few helpful links. Some of the pieces, the links here rather, I think were put into the chat, but just to review your information sources going through these challenging times. We encourage you always to come to ISEO if you have any questions about your visa status. We are the primary source of information for those in F1 and J1 status, for those who are impacted directly by these newest actions by the government. We understand that there will be other sources of information, folks will find it, but ultimately we will have the most helpful information and most relevant to your situation. So please come to ISEO. You can see our contact information here. We have dedicated pages for student services, for our scholar services. Our iUpdates link is there as well. And then, of course, as I talked about earlier, in being in community and having programming opportunities and a chance to unplug and unwind a little bit from everything that is happening, you can find under our iEvents or iPrograms.ucsd.edu pages. And before we go into Q&A here, just some additional resource links. I will keep this page up during Q&A because I think it has a lot of helpful information and links for folks to take a look at. Our immigration policy updates, federal policy updates that I mentioned, the checklists that I mentioned, both for students and scholars, are here and accessible as well. Our newsletters for our different populations, safety information and resources, and then of course legal resources as well.